joining us, welcome, and we're happy to be together. And now we'll be sharing some information. I hope it will be useful to you. Our goal today is that if you're here or if you're watching this video, you see how you can use AI to do some things that you wish were possible in a CAD tool. So can AI do something that I normally can't do with just my translation memory, my machine translation, my glossary, and all my knowledge and my good writing skills? Is there something that I can do with it? Well, that's something that we'll go over. So we'll try to make it as interactive as possible, have your questions, have you testing on your side as well. If you have managed to get some API keys, then we'll try to do that. And what I'll do, I will now close my camera and start sharing my screen so that you can see better. And we'll get started. So I'll just go over some basics, and then we'll get started with the workshop in itself. Okay, and if you are a teacher and you're latecomer, just let us know in the comments. So you have two areas where you can communicate. You have the bubbles where you can, that's the chat area, so you can chat with us. And you have also the question area, so you have question marks that you can use. And you also have the reactions, okay? So if you're having a good time, you can do that. But if you want to raise your hand to ask a question, you can just raise your hand. Okay, so let's get started. So camera off. And I'm going to close that, which is my YouTube channel. Okay, so we are in Wordfast Anywhere. So in Wordfast Anywhere, all that is AI related is in a menu that is here, okay, in the setup. I'm going to make it bigger for a moment. So Wordfast Anywhere, and that opens this ribbon. And in this ribbon, you have the gear wheel, the cog wheel, Setup Wordfast Anywhere. And once you open it, you can do many things here. But what we'll be interested in is AI. So if you've been using machine translation before, what do you do with machine translation? Well, you add a machine translation with the green button. You select your provider. So let's say, for example, well-known one, DeepL. And in here, you have to put your API key. So if you are a DeepL customer, you paid, you get the API key, you copy it, and you paste it here, and it will look something gibberish like this. And you paste it here, and that's your key. So I just typed that. Don't try to copy it. It's not, it's not a real key. There you are. So that's the way you do it with machine translation. But with AI, it's not different. And as is the case with machine translation, it's the same with AI. Some providers will allow you to use AI for free, with some limitations, of course, and some others will want a fee right away. Okay, so for example, ChatGPT, to use the remote connection, which is the API key, you'll have to pay. If you make an account and open your browser and start talking to ChatGPT, you don't have to pay. But if you want to connect it to your CAD tool, in this case, Wordfast Anywhere, then that's different for them, and they ask you to pay for that service. The same happens with Claude. For example, for Claude, last year I put, I think, $5 of credit to have my API key, and that lasted me a very long time, a few months. I used that mainly for testing, but also I did a few translations with it, and it lasted me a long time. So it's usually, when you look at the word count that you're translating, AI usually comes cheaper than using machine translation. So that's the way it works. Some other AI providers, like Google, for example, so that's Gemini, and Mistral, or Mistral AI, which have le chat, then they also allow you to have a free key. Okay, so to add a new AI provider, I'm going to show you how to do it. So let me grab a key. Okay, so for example, here I have Gemini. I'm going to remove it and I'm going to add it again. Okay, so let's say, so if that's the first time you open this window in Wordfast Anywhere, you will see here it's empty. Okay, and to get started, you click on Add a new AI, and any AI that you haven't added will be here in that list. So I have only 3 because I'm using already a lot of them. But if you're using none of them, they will all be here in that drop-down. So for example, here I'm going to start with Gemini, okay, that's from Google. And I see this big window opening. And this is a very important area, okay? And I see here, so the AI provider is Gemini, and on the line API key, I will paste my key, okay? And then at the bottom, if I make that smaller, I add the AI, okay? So first step, I click on add. This will test the AI. And then I have to click on save settings. It's only when you do the last click, save settings, that you have made the complete operation, okay? So you have to do these steps first to make sure that your AI is added. And once you see that the message that were in the middle is gone, now your AI is ready to be used. So to use it, you have to make sure it's selected, okay? So for example, here, active, I see that it's ChatGPT, but now I want to use Gemini. So I want to select Gemini, okay? And then I will have to click on Save Settings. But let's first look at what comes out of the box when I add an AI. First thing, even if you don't have an API key, if you do the step of adding Gemini and you click on Gemini Engine Details, you will see here how to configure things. And here, this explains to you also, if you don't have an account for Gemini yet, how to create one, okay? So this will take you to this area. And in here, you have guides that are found on the web. They are not made by Wordfast, but we found that they were useful, so we added them here. And you can follow them to see how you can get a free API key, as long as it's valid, because Google can decide one day that they change that. And so if you want to follow these steps, that's how you get a free API key. I'm not looking at what's at the bottom yet, okay, because that's more complicated. But for now, just that's the basics, okay? And out of the box, Wordfast Anywhere gives you many prompts and select them as active. So we see here that there's 9 prompts selected active, but still you have more prompts that you can select and that are given. So you have 13 prompts given for Gemini, and 9 are pre-selected. So to make things clear, I'm going to keep only the one that's doing the translation. So you see they all have a name and a description. So I'm keeping the first one. So name, translate, description, used to translate. So that's the most basic prompt. That's the one that's going to behave the same as a machine translation. Okay, so I'm good to go. I click on add. And now make sure that Gemini is selected. and I click on Save Settings. Okay, so now let's try a file. So I can open a file and I can start translating. So Alt down. And if I look here, I have, okay, machine translation. It's not machine translation, it's AI, but it's behaving the same as machine translation would, okay? So this here is the basic translation behavior. Okay, so then I can use that any way I want. I can keep the translation, change it, and then move on to the next segment. And that will happen on every segment, okay? So the basic behavior here is I open the segment, I have a prompt for translation, and it translates, and the prompt is doing just basic translation. Okay, so let's close the segment. Now, let's look at something else. I go back to AI, I go back to Gemini, and now I see that I have some prompts that have the green translation symbol and that are in the usage column identified as to translate, but some are not. Starting on this fifth line, I see to enhance. And here it goes again. I have more. So what's happening here? So if we go back to our translate prompt, we can look at what's inside. So if you hover over this symbol here, that tells you what is in the prompt. So let's click on the pen, you edit your prompt. That opens the prompt workbench. So here is the prompt workbench. And this is what the most basic prompt will look like. You are a professional translator. So we are telling the AI what it's doing. So you're behaving like a translator. Today, you're not an engineer. You're not writing poems. You're not telling me jokes. You're translating. Okay, you're a translator. Translate the following text to, now there's something weird. I've got these curved brackets and it says TL. So TL stands for target language, and I can see it here at the bottom. So if you watch the video, I encourage you to watch. This is one of the dynamic parameters. So when Wordfast Anywhere sees that you have written your prompt and you have put this here, Wordfast Anywhere knows that these 4 characters, this symbol, must be replaced by the actual target language for your project. And this is practical because once you have a prompt that you have made, it will work for all your target languages and your source languages. If that was not the case, we would have to change the prompt every time and write. So for example, here, if we're translating to Spanish, I will have to write to Spanish. But if I was translating to French, I would have to write French. Okay, so that's being replaced. Other instructions we are giving it: do not alter the tags and place them correctly in the target text. Do not use HTML tags. Do not use Unicode characters, etc., etc. And we tell it to add nothing else. And then we say, here is the text, but there's no text. Only we have the dynamic parameter S and S, okay, which means source segment. And we see here it in the list, okay? And so the text that you have in your segment, so if you're on segment 29, well, the text from segment 29 will be given here in the prompt. And so Wordfast Anywhere will package all that and send that to the AI. Okay, and if you decide to make some changes here, you can make them and you click on add. Okay, so for the moment, I'll just click on cancel because I didn't make any changes. So far, is that clear enough? Okay, excellent. Fantastic. Okay, good. So now we were looking at the basic translation prompt. Now let's look at what in Wordfast Anywhere we called to enhance prompts, because they don't do only translation. They can do it, but they can do something else. So we look at one that I like for demonstration, which is the one that I was showing also in the video about the dynamic parameters, which is the synonyms prompt. Okay, so I'll click on the pencil to look at what we've done here. So the name of the prompt is synonyms, and it's designed to provide synonyms and to highlight the best one. So it's a bit more complicated because we have added highlighting, okay? But it's doing these two things. And if you look at it, we haven't ticked here use to translate. So this means that when you are opening your segment with Alt down, this prompt will not be triggered. You will have to trigger it manually. And to trigger it manually, you will have to assign it to a button. And to do that, you have to look here at the options you have. Okay. And at the moment, what's selected is terminology and domain. So this prompt will be triggered only if I click on terminology and domain. So now I can click on add. Now I click on add again. And I will click on save. Okay. So now if I open my first segment again, so I get my translation, same as before, but now I can select a word in here. And if I go to AI Enhance, I have the list of buttons. And I believe we have assigned that to terminology and domain, and I can now click it. And what happened? Well, you see here at the top that it gives me a list of synonyms, and the AI thinks that utilizador would be best than usuario. Well, that's the AI. You don't have to follow it, but that's what the prompt does. Okay, so and it's triggered only when I'm pressing the button, and so that tells you that you can do many things in Wordfast Anywhere. You will see the prompts that are there and that are designed are there to enable you to do many, many, many things. So, for example, so I had a question that came in before this presentation, and one was, how can I make sure that, let me see where I put it, so I can use the correct words. Okay, so for example, we want to make the text formal. So I will close that file. I had created a multi-prompt tester here. So let's see. So this one is to be translated into French. And I have, okay, so for example, here I have someone that's being cited, okay, and in segment 17, we can see that the kind of text is very not formal, and that's the same also for segment 18. I will try with segment 18 first. So we have here an option for basic translation. And if I go into the setup, so in here we have an option to rewrite the text to make it formal. So we have decided to make it as an enhance feature so that it's not translating everything, forcing it to be formal, but that you can do that on selected segments if you want. But if you want to have a prompt that works for translation and translating every segment formal directly, you can do that too. You can change the prompt slightly and change the configuration, ticking the box to translate, and that will become a translating prompt. But at the moment, it's to enhance. So it will be in style and tone. So I click on Add. I click on Save Settings. And once my settings are ready, I should be able to test it. Okay. So now, so I could, so now what's going to happen is everything that is in the target, okay, will be sent to the AI. Okay, so any text that's in here will go. So I'm going here and I click on Style and Tone. And now I see that Gemini has already answered. And I can see that the tone has changed. Okay, so in French, here you have tu, which is less formal. And in here, it went to vous, which is far more formal. So we see that the change has been applied. Okay, so this is the two basic ways of using AI. You have how you can do things when you're translating. So we could change that prompt and make it so that every time I open a segment, that happens automatically. So when text is translated, it's made formal as well. So I can do that. And I can have more than one prompt selected. So if I'm translating, I can have 2, 3 prompts. The thing is, if you put more prompts, you'll have to wait a few more tenths of a second, or sometimes a second or two if the prompts are complicated, sorry, but that will do the job anyway. So far where we are, any questions? Oh, I see a question here. Hello, Laura. Thanks for coming in. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. Okay. So, for example, we had another question, and I'll see if this one, if that's available in Gemini already or not. So let's see. Okay, so you can do prompts that are made to have actions on the target text. So a bit of it's if it was QA or trans check, or even if that's something very specific. Okay, so for example, here we have a prompt that checks the grammar and the spelling. We have another one that checks if you have added or omitted vocabulary. This means that the AI will be sent the source text and also the text that is in your target, and it will compare to make sure that keywords have not been omitted or have not been added, and it will give you a report on that. We have AI detection. So, for example, if you have an assignment and you tell your students you are forbidden to use AI to translate that document, that must come from your own writing skills. If something smells fishy, well, you can use that prompt. It's made to find things that are usual in the way where AI will translate. It has some tendencies, so it will check if it finds them. Now, AI is getting better and better, so sometimes it will be hard to spot, but that's one thing. And this last one here, for example, will give you suggestions to make your text feel more natural. So if you have a translation that's been done by AI, but you don't feel like doesn't sound, it lacks something, but I want to review it and I want to see some ideas, well, you can use that one. Okay, so for example, I'll trigger that one now, and that will go into localization and audience. And I will save my settings. Okay, so we'll take, for example, okay, we can do that once. For example, segment 2. So we will get a translation, okay? And now we want to check that translation and see some suggestions. Okay, so now the AI is looking at what's in the target, okay? And it's giving options of how we could rewrite it. It's giving suggestions and why. So it's commenting the sort of quality and text and style of the text, if you want. Okay. So that's what we have. So that's the basics. Okay. Tell me, do you find it difficult so far? Is this something that you'd feel that you'd be comfortable using? Okay, great. So now, if you have some prompt you want me to test, okay, I will show you things, but as much as you have feedback for me, the better it will be. We want to have it as a workshop. So if you have some ideas, oh, I'd like my AI to do this for me or to translate that way, or please write something either in the question box or in the chat. Or you can drop that, even if you have an example of text, you can drop that to me in an email. So you're welcome to do that. And then I can have a look at that. So while you are thinking about it, I'm going to show you how to make a prompt. I'll take it slow so you can think at the same time. Oh, yeah, good question. Yeah. Can you create a prompt in French rather than in English? Absolutely, you can. Yes. For complicated prompts or prompts that involved more pieces, if you want, English is better because English is the best language in most LLMs, in most AI engines. But if your prompt shouldn't have things too complicated in it, you can do it in any language you want. It must be a big language, but you can use them. For those of you that work with Portuguese, we also have a built-in connector for an AI system that is from Brazil and that is called Maritalk. It's meant to speak Brazilian. So if you look at the prompts, they are all written in Portuguese from Brazil. And it's not meant to translate. So it doesn't have prompts for translation, but it does have prompts to rewrite your text. So that's an example. That's a use case for something like that. Okay, so let me show you something and keep the questions or the suggestions coming. Yeah, absolutely. You have to practice. Yeah, and that's the goal of today. Trying to write something. So, for example, the other day I was looking at new prompts that we were making for Wordfast server. So Wordfast server will include also an option to use AI. So that will come soon. So if you want to use it, that will be a way also to have AI connected into Wordfast Pro. So here is a prompt that we can think about. So when you have acronyms in text and you just have these very few letters, and that becomes a problem because when you ask an AI or a machine translation to translate them, usually they get them wrong. And also you want to check that the acronym is correct. So one way to do that is to make the AI have also the acronym given in full letters. And you can do that with AI. So that's one prompt that we can try to add. So to add a prompt, you click on that button, add a new workbench prompt. There you go. And we're going to give it a name. So it will be called acronym expander. Okay. And what do I want to use it for? The goal is to translate and expand acronyms. So I'm going to paste the use here. And I want to use it upon the translation of the segment. Okay. So customize temperature. Temperature is the degree of freedom that you give the AI. If you give it a difficult task, it's usually better to increase the temperature, so give it more freedom to work. And if you are giving it a simple task, but a very narrow use, so it has to be this, then you can reduce the temperature to force it to go exactly along the lines that you are giving. So for this, I don't need to change the temperature. Each engine gets a general temperature. So if I don't put anything in there, it will be given the general temperature for that engine. So prompt text. So I will show you what I did. Copy paste it here. Okay. You are a highly precise translator. Amazing. So translate the source segment from source language to target language. And now comes the interesting part. For every acronym encountered, the translation must adhere strictly to this format. Provide the accepted target language acronym or equivalent immediately followed by its fully translated expanded name with first letters capitalized and closed in parentheses. And then we have the general things, preserve all formatting, and we tell it to add no commentary, explanation, etc. And then we give it the source at the end, okay? So basically, it's very similar to a basic translation prompt, but the difference is what we have added here, okay? These are your instructions. You see an acronym, you translate it correctly, and in parentheses, you put the fully expanded name, and you must make first letters capitalized. Okay, so let's add it. And it's usually added at the end. So here I find it. And as I've selected it to act for translation, I see it here to translate. So I select it, and now I follow the usual. So I click on add, etc. So the temperature at the moment for Gemini is 0.2, which is a bit low. We'll see if everything works fine. If not, I'll increase it. So save settings. Okay, so let's go to Spanish this time. English to Spanish. And okay, we have, for example, segment 4, central nervous system. So here that's easy enough because both are given, but we'll see what the AI does. And that's good. Okay, so in the basic one, it worked. It gave the correct one. And in here, it did what we asked. Okay, so we have the expanded version. It wasn't necessary because it was given prior, but it did it. So which is good. Now let's find another one. All right, for example, this one, 8 here. Let's try it. All right, so in here, interesting. So the basic prompt just said, okay, that must be a name or something like that. So I'm going to put it back in the same form. So IRB in the source, IRB in the target. But now, if we force it to translate the acronym correctly and expand it, now we get CEI, Comité de Ética de la Investigación. Interesting. So that, for example, you have that in the target. Maybe you don't want to keep what's in full parentheses, but as you're translating, you're making sure, if you are in a document that's going to have a lot of them, you're making sure that this is correct. And of course, you have to do your homework and check that and everything, but that can save you some time. Then you can, if you don't want it, you can remove it. But that's an idea. That's something that can be a help to save some time. So, did that inspire some ideas? The temperature ranges. So I have a question. What are the temperature ranges? It depends on the tools. Some go 0 to 1, some goes 0 to 1.5, some go 0 to 2. And usually you select the average. Okay, so you look online to find what's the temperature range for the AI that you're using, and then you select the temperature. But for every AI engine that is already set up in Wordfast Anywhere, you already get a basic value that you can use. So you have that, it's already set up, but then you can change it. And if you look at some prompts that are in the list, some are already with the change. So if we look at some more complicated prompts, So if we go back to Gemini, so for example, yeah, so this one, it has a temperature of 1, and this one here, it has a temperature of 1.5. Okay. And so that's for the temperatures. So that's for Gemini. So now let me give you a general overview of the kind of prompts we already have so that you can get inspired if you want to try it for yourself. So translate considering context. So this one, basically, we look at, so here we see we are on segment 8. When you open segment 8, it will look at what is in segment 7 and what is in segment 9. And it will send that to the AI and tell it, this is the context. This is what is written previously to that sentence and after that sentence. So translate having that in mind. So, and it does it. Then you have the biggest context that we can offer at the moment, which is 3 segments prior and 3 segments after. So Wordfast Anywhere will send here, if you're on segment 8, it will send segments 5 through to 11 to the AI, and it will ask it to translate, bearing in mind that context. Fuzzy repair. Fuzzy repair will make sure, well, it will make sure. What will happen is when you open your segment, if you have fuzzy matches in your translation memory that are above 75%, Wordfast Anywhere will tell the AI, look, some similar translations that we have, you must translate with the same terminology and the same style. And it will force the AI to use what is in your translation memory to translate that segment. So DI here, so that's for inclusive writing, okay, and to make sure that there is no discriminatory or terms or something like that. And so that's the prompt you want to use. We have it to enhance at the moment, so to rewrite the text that's in your target, but that prompt can be made, if you just make just a few changes in it, it can be made to work on translation as well. Here we have a prompt to rewrite the text to make it short. That's self-explanatory. That's to enhance. Formal, we've looked at it. Casual, it's the contrary of formal. And then the other ones, grammar and spelling, we looked at it. Synonym also. And all these other ones we've looked at already. Okay. So these are some things you can do. While we were at ATA, we also worked with some that were there on prompts special for legal applications. So if you have some specific legal text, you can make specific prompts that will work for that. And we also considered the plain legal situation. And so you can make a few prompts. Well, you can make a prompt to translate in plain legal, and that can help. So some situations, some ideas. So is there a prompt you want me to test? Something you want me to see if we can force an AI to do your bidding? You're the boss. You're telling the AI what to do. So let me ask you a question also. So I'm going to do, so we'll do that simple with raise your hand if you want. So for example, that prompt that we just looked at, the acronym expander, is that a prompt that you'd find useful? Okay, so how can I share it with you? Good question. Now, if I look at the prompt, once I have it created, I have the option here to click on that toggle. And that toggle has access to the prompt village. Okay. So if I click on that, I will make this prompt available on the prompt village. So that's a feature that's in Wordfast Anywhere, and that allows you to go in the prompt village and browse prompts that have been made by other users, and they are there for you, and you can use them. So I'm going to display my name, no problem. If you don't tick that box, we don't know it's you that made the prompt, okay? I don't need to add a different note here because that's self-explanatory what this prompt does. And I will just do the full save steps, add, and save settings. And once I've done that, this means that when you are in Wordfast Anywhere, you will be able to go get that prompt and use it if you want. And I'll show you how. So, for example, if I enable ChatGPT, I don't have that prompt at the moment in ChatGPT. But if I go on this green button in the village, in the middle, sorry, that will take me to the prompt village. Okay, and in here I see many prompts. Okay, and you can search it. So for example, if I type for some reason, or maybe name, acronym, there you go. So acronym, okay, it found it. So once I click on it, it gets it selected. And if I click on add, it will add it to my list of prompts. And fair enough, now that I look at the end, it's added the acronym expander. I can select it. And now I click on add, save settings, and that prompt has been added to my prompts that I can use. And it was shared on the prompt village. So that's interesting. If you have, for example, a student that is very, very good, you have a nerd and he's very good at writing prompts. And if he doesn't mind sharing his name, well, he can make a name for himself by publishing some prompts, or they can do that also anonymously, they don't share the name. And you have everything you need to change the prompt in the future if you're not happy with the prompt, or if you've been using the prompt and you've improved it and you want the users to be able to have the improved version, you can change the prompt also on the prompt village. So you have the method for that as well. Okay, so I have an excellent question. So can you tell the AI to translate a segment and use terms for a glossary that you created in Wordfast Anywhere? I love that kind of questions. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use ChatGPT for that. Okay. And I'm going to go in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that prompt and I'm going to make a copy of it. Okay. And now I have a copy. So that's the basic translation prompt. I made a duplicate. And now I'm going to name it translate glossary. Use to translate, and let's do that, and force use of glossary terms. Okay. Now, okay, all good. And now in here, what I want to do, translate the following text to target language. Okay, so that's good. But I'm going to tell it, you must use the following terms in the translation. And I'm going to go, and in here I find this dynamic parameter, and I'm going to put it here in the translation. Okay, full stop here. So what am I telling the AI? You're translating, you must use the following terms, and in here, Wordfast Anywhere will give the terms, the list of terms, if they are present in the glossary for the translation. Okay, add, save. So I've created it. I haven't selected it yet, okay, because I have to add some terms to the glossary. Okay, so oh yeah, I forgot. I have so many things in ChatGPT. We'll have to wait sometimes because I was testing so many things there. Okay, so for Outlook, okay, we will do. Oh, let's do that. We'll do that in French, and I'm going to copy that prompt. Oh, let's do this. Going to turn all this off. Translate glossary. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that should go faster, and yeah, that should work with glossary. Okay, so source will be Outlook, and in the target, I'm going to say email app. You know, that's out of context, but that's just to force the AI to use it. We'll see if it does, because sometimes if that's not correct, it doesn't like it. Okay, so let's do that. Yeah, it put it. Okay, so now that it knows that it's an email app, it put the Outlook name here. Okay, so that's not a good glossary term, but we'll do another one. But that shows you that it's something that works. So let's, what could we use? OK, notre thérapeutique, notre thérapie. So we'll do therapeutic, and we'll do OK, let's do that. OK, so instead of just one word, I have something longer. And I will see if it uses it in the translation. Yeah, it did. So now I can use it. Okay, we've got all that. Now we may need to fix slightly the prompt to make sure that we don't get the brackets. Okay, so for example, we can go back in the prompt and tell it to remove the brackets before giving the full answer. But that's basically how you make that prompt. So I hope that answers the question. If you have some other ideas in the meantime, make sure to show them. And that's actually a good example of something that I mentioned at the very beginning. Not everybody was there, but that's what is a prompt chain. So for example, here, if I go into the prompt that I made, I go into the prompt workbench and I change it. I tell it, don't put the brackets, and it still does it for some reason. Then I have a second solution. I can use a prompt chain. So I can leave the first prompt like it is, and I can go into the AI panel, okay? And I can say I'm going to make a new prompt to enhance, and that prompt will be called bracket remover. And it sees the text, okay? So it sees the text that's in the target, and it removes every bracket, okay? So well, actually, we can make it. Let's do that. So we'll do. For example, what do I have to enhance? Okay, for example, that one. I'm going to make a copy. Yeah, actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to use that. Okay, so you are a professional proofreader. Look the text you are looking at in, and now I'm going to put the target language. Okay, target language may have some brackets. Your task is to remove all brackets. Okay, this is the text. Well, maybe leave all other special characters untouched. Okay, so it's targeting only the brackets. Okay, and now we tell it this is the text, and since this will be to enhance, we will be using the target text. Okay, target text. Okay, so Now, used to translate. No, category, style, and tone. That's more like QA. And I'm adding it. Oh, I have to change the name. So that's the bracket remover. I have a problem with brackets. Now, okay. And I can click on add. Add. Save. Okay, so let's do the same thing again. Oh. Okay, so I move that which has the brackets, and now I'm going to test my prompt, which is in QA. I'm going to trigger it. And now we have 0 brackets. So that's a pipe, but that's fine. Okay, so I remove that, and I'm good to go. So it did what it was supposed to do. It removed the brackets. There was still a special character, but that was not in the list of things to remove. So here I had to do 2 things. Okay, but what if I'm lazy and I don't want to do 2 things? Well, you can create a chain in Wordfast anywhere. So let's go create a chain. And now to create a chain, you must have all the prompts that you want to use, okay? But to create a chain, you go into this area here and you click on build and manage prompt chaining, okay? And now I have several chains that I've made before, but now I can create one with that specific use case. So that will be glossary and brackets. Description used to translate with gloss and remove brackets. Okay, now I can assign it a category. If I want to use my chain as an enhanced system, but that's not what I want. I want it to trigger when I translate. If your chain is long, you may want to give more time to the AI. So what's said here in prompt chain timeout is how long you are giving the AI to work with it. And so 10,000 will be fine for that. But you can change it if you need to. And now here we have every prompt that I have. Okay, but I know that my prompts are in ChatGPT, and I want to find translate glossary used to translate and force use of glossary terms. So that's the first one I want to use. Okay, so that's the first step. Then second step, that will still be in ChatGPT, and that will be bracket remover removes brackets. And before I'm done, I have to select a parameter. So basically, the parameter is when I get the result from step 1, where in your prompt do I place it? And I see here that in my prompt, I say, this is the text, TT, so target text. And logically, I will select that one. Okay, so what's in here will be what's present in the current prompt. Okay, Wordfast Anywhere will see the parameters available here, and it will update the list here so that you can choose. And so in the list, I have only target language, which is what I've placed here, and target text. So I need to select target text. And that's where the result from the previous step will be placed. And now I can just click on add. To make sure I'm using that, I need to select it. Now I close and I save. And doing that, I have just added to my basic translation process the full two-step process of translating with the glossary and removing the brackets. So now we can go ahead and test it. So with a chain, it should take slightly longer to process, but still it's not too bad. And if we look here, the last entry, it comes from the prompt chain. And if I put it in the target, you will see it used, okay. Now it didn't use the exact glossary term, but we can try it again. Didn't have brackets, but the glossary term wasn't there. Sometimes if you don't get what you want the first time with AI, you can just trigger it again and see if it does it. Ah, no, it was there. Yeah, translate glossary. Okay. And for some reason, it's not doing it. Maybe I selected something wrong in the chain. Let me see. Okay, no, that should be that. Hold on, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it a little more time. Maybe that will help. All right, let's see. Yes. All right. Now it worked. Okay. So we have the glossary term that we asked for, and we have none of the brackets. Okay. So it worked. So that's good. Sometimes we have situations where it doesn't work, but okay, yeah. So we are now coming to the end of the session, and so if you want, if you have some questions or something you want to say or something you'd like to suggest, we can take just a few seconds now to discuss it, and then we leave it there. But feel free if you have something. So any suggestions, or if you have any question. We covered quite a bit, but I hope it was, understandable. And we really want that you go ahead and you try it. It's for the for the chains, for example. I have posted some of the prompts that are needed to create a chain on the prompt village. So you will find some prompts sometimes that it says it's number 1, it's number 2, and so these are part of a prompt chain. So if you want to try them, you can do that. And that's something that's changing all the time as the large language models are evolving. Sometimes you have to fix your prompts, or sometimes a prompt that wasn't working before becomes something that is working now. But basically, you have everything in your hands to do a lot, because even something that you think is impossible to do in only one prompt, well, maybe it's possible to do in a chain of prompts. So I hope you enjoyed it. and you're going to try it. So thank you all for the positive comments, and you will have access to the video. And if you're later watching this video, well, we hope you will enjoy these features in Wordfast Anywhere and that they will assist you in your work, because we think it's sad to use AI just as a glorified machine translation. It can do a lot more than that for you, and it can do interesting things. So we hope you'll enjoy it. What to expect? In the close future, Wordfast Anywhere will have also the option to translate your whole file at once, not segmented. So this means that the AI will see the full context of your document, and once it's translated, then it will be split into segments, and you will be able to translate it. So that's something to look forward to as well. That makes for interesting translation experiences as well. So thank you all for coming today. We hope you will share that with your students and follow our social media, maybe subscribe to our newsletter to see when we are doing these webinars, because we make many free webinars. And we hope to see you in the next one.